Hey guys, what's up? Hey, Ronin man here. I was looking online. I was reading articles like I do every day. I like to read as much as I can from as many different sources as possible. I don't limit myself to MGTOW stuff. I'll read pretty much everything. I'll read women's magazines. I started reading women's magazines back when I was about 22. My mentor, Dawn, recommended I read Cosmo to understand women better. And so what I started doing was I'd read Cosmo when I was, girls magazines basically when I was waiting for a haircut, or if I was in the dentist or doctor's office, and also if I was sitting in the supermarket with nothing to do or in the store, and they had like a magazine rack, and I would read articles, and I always learned something from different sources, and women's magazines were one of the best. But today there's so much good information on the internet. Today I was quickly talk about this article. I thought it was quite funny, and basically you can see the article right there. Guy goes to Mexico to kill himself, changes his mind after doing coke and banging hookers for a week, right? And I think anybody who watches my channel knows that I'm not into hookers, which is hilarious because I live in like a place where there's quite a few. But the thing is like, just because you don't, basically what happened to this guy is that he took the red pill, right? And he let's go through the article, but that's basically what he did. Is this was his journey to somewhat taking the red pill for himself. And I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and how I took the red pill. I've talked a little bit about it, but this made me think of a lot of different things that I never thought about before. So basically, this was a Reddit thread, and so this guy's what was his title here? He was called let's see, please and help something. Please send help. Yeah, please send help on a Reddit subreddit, and he was talking about how he was going to go down to Mexico, and he was going to buy, what is it here? Barbiturates for a humane and peaceful death, right? So that was his plan. He went down there, and but when he got down there, right, instead, he thought, well, it's my last chance, right? May as well, get a hooker and get drunk, drink some tequila, get some Viagra, and have some fun, right? And so that's what he did. And he got some coke, apparently, and he started having, going out with these girls, he got the heart-shaped bed and the stripper pole and hot tub, right? It sounds pretty good, right? It's interesting, even if you're not into this kind of stuff, it's still like, to each his own, man. To each his own, man. Like, really, I've seen a lot of guys who have taken the red pill in so many ways, and it takes what it takes to break you out of lethargy and realizing that society does not have your best interest in mind. And then what my take on this guy is, just to give you a quick, I think my take is this guy was really, really messed up, and he was really having a hard time, and if this guy, many guys have been like this. They just feel at the end of their rope. They feel like there's just no hope. Like, he doesn't have any options in society. He's so hemmed in, and so, like, there's nothing, no one's given him anything, He's not getting any respect, and it's of course, it's a lot of it is his own mind. He's hemming himself in by not going outside of society, right? Basically. So what he did, the coke and whores, all that is, in this case, is basically, he turned his back on society, right? He said, this stuff is not working for me. This the way I've been raised, the way I've been taught, the way it's supposed to be, his minister, his neighbor, his boss, all this stuff that's around him, society, the movies he watches, the TV he watches, the conversation that happens where he is, and, the things that are supposed to be fun, the things that are supposed to be enjoyable are not enjoyable for this guy. And like, he's just like miserable. And finally he said, I'm just going to throw it all away. I'm going to go do this other thing, right? I'm going to go, originally he went to kill himself, but once he got down there, actually, maybe he didn't even really make this decision, but it kind of came to him through his own weakness, in a sense, because he went down there and then he saw all these opportunities. He had money in his pocket. He figured, well, may as well do it. May as well check it out, right? And sometimes the may as well, before you make the final solution is like the best thing ever, because it's like when you throw away all of society's like expectations and you just finally say, hey, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm tired of this, And there's a story. Actually Richard Bandler who created something called NLP, which I studied quite a bit for a while. But he had one story about a woman that was quite interesting. He was he's kind of a psychotherapist. Kind of hard to explain. He wasn't really. He would not say he wasn't, but he would help people, right? And so what happened was this girl came to him and she was going to kill herself. And because nobody wanted her, they didn't want to get married, and so he said, well, do you have like $100 or something? And she goes, yeah, I have $100. And he goes, well, go buy a nice dress, And she's like, why? He's like, okay, just go buy a nice dress. And he said, is there anything that would, why are you going to kill yourself? And she's like, well, no man likes me, nobody wants me, my life is no meaning, And so he said, well, is there anybody that you like? And she said, well, there was this guy at work. And so basically he told her, he said, look, go buy a nice dress, go get a nice haircut, and tomorrow when you go to work, when you get to the water fountain, just get a mouthful of water and just spit it all over the guy. And so she did it. She went there. She's like, why would I? He's like, look, you're going to kill yourself anyway. You got no, you know what I mean? Like, she had nothing else. She couldn't think of anything else. This was it. And so she went and bought the dress, got the haircut, and then she spit water all over this guy, and they ended up getting married, right? And, obviously she didn't kill herself, right? So, I don't recommend anybody kill themselves, men or women, feminists or anybody. There's always a second chance. We always have a second chance, guys. There's always a second chance, no matter what happens. Never give up. That's really, really one of my strongest feelings, because life's like a freaking floating down a river, man. Sometimes there's rapids, sometimes it's mellow, sometimes it's a beautiful sunset, sometimes freezing cold rain, but everything changes. Everything changes. And sometimes you feel terrible, sometimes you feel alone, other times you're in the middle of a party, right? You're just floating down that river, right? Never give up because you're in a certain phase, right? But either way, that story, even though it's a woman and it's marriage and all that, you can see what he was really getting at is like, before you give up on things, try something that just fucking outrageous. Like, why not? Why would you not try something outrageous before you make a final solution, right? So this guy, this was his thing. He went to Mexico and he went down there, and then he credits all the things he did with curing his, didn't cure his depression, but it credited him as giving joy in his life. And he lost weight. He used to be obese. He looks like he tried some lesbian stuff, got a girl to eat out another girl from behind while he fucked the other girl, which was pretty cool. That's always a good thing. And then he did a bunch of acid. That might have been why he actually changed his mind, But he got a different way of thinking, So, the way we take the red pill is so many ways. But I think in general, just like anything, just like any kind of self-help, we only reach out when we reach some kind of bottom, Whereas like things are not good, and we finally admit it, that things are not good. Like, things are not going well for me, Like, for example, I always use this example, but like 12-step groups, like for alcoholics, right? They have some kind of bottom. They drink too much. And then finally they say, they have one really embarrassing episode, or, that's something they feel really bad about. And then they say, I need help. Like, it's their bottom. It's their point where they finally say, I can't ignore it. This thing is serious. And I think MGTOWs are exactly the same way. It's like, if things worked for us, like the way they're supposed to work, we would just happily go out our own way. I mean, it's our go society's way, right? But it's when things don't work, it's when we wake up and we say, wait a second, what is this whole system? Like, why am I in this? Why am I doing this shit? What is my goal really this? Is this what I really want? Like, why am I doing all this stuff? Like, what are the advantages for me? Like, this is my life. Like, what, and then they start to like take the red pill and they start to study about what's actually going on. And like, they realize it's not in their favor. And the only way to succeed is to break out of that and to try something new. And something like MGTOW, is really out of the box. And it's like, none of the things that we believe or we get into are society accepted by society, and they're very, very out of the box thinking, right? So, if you're in that state where you're like, I don't think this is working for me, man. Like I just don't see this system set up for my success. Like I just don't. I don't see it. Like it doesn't make me happy. That's the other thing, is like things that are supposed to make you happy just don't, and you realize it, and you say, wait a second, like this doesn't. I realized that long ago. Like I don't even watch movies anymore because I used to like movies, and then I don't know what happened, but there's some point where I realized like they're just these man-made ideas and plots that are, I don't know, they're just kind of lame. I would much rather watch a MGTOW video or a science movie, a documentary, or something about somebody that's doing something, somebody's making something, somebody's doing something, somebody's going somewhere, something real, right? Or history. I love history. I get off on history. But like some story about some guy who comes out of nowhere and, he does this and does that. I'll do an episode about movies sometime because they really are full of messages that you're supposed to believe about the way life is. And, it's just like total shit. Same with movies. I have music and movies both. That's why I don't get into them. If there was good plots, I guess I could get into them. But I found that they're usually shoving some idea down my throat. And it's like usually something that is kind of like, I don't know, it's just like lame. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's like, no, man, that doesn't work. That's not the way it works. Like, I tried that, and I need something else, right? Maybe if there was a MGTOW movie, that would be fucking awesome. I guess, speaking of movies, The Red Pill was an absolutely fantastic movie, which I can't recommend enough. If you have not seen it, The Red Pill movie, you can see it on Amazon. That is like really worthwhile to watch. If you're on the fence in your own mind about why this movement is so important, that'll give you some like backup emotionally, like mentally in your mind. You watch these other guys just getting really screwed over, If you haven't been really screwed over yet, when you see what's happened to other guys, that wakes you up too. There's two ways to find a bottom in life, like for any kind of issue, right? One is to experience it yourself. Okay, so like an alcoholic, he goes out, he gets completely shit canned. He gets thrown in jail, gets a DUI, he loses his license, he loses his job. Then he says, oh my gosh, I need help, right? The other way is to watch somebody else do it and then realize, learn from somebody else and say, hey, that guy is going through it. And, I'm on the same path, right? I don't want to do that myself, right? So that's the other way to learn. And that's the way I recommend learning as much as possible from other MGTOWs. Because the stories might not be the same as you, but they're fucking valuable shit, right? Like some dude that got screwed over in a divorce and how he went through it, the pain he went through, and the way he was like treated like shit and stuff like this. This is like important stuff, Even if you're never going to get married, you might have friends who have sons, or you might have friends who are going to get married. You can help them, right, in so many ways, right? Maybe to protect themselves or whatever, So either way, I thought this was a great story, and I know for me, like the red pill, for me was coming to Asia. That was the red pill, because there's so many different ideas. I'm not saying everybody's going to have that same experience, but for me, I got into a lot of wild situations, sexual experiences, and things like that, and it just made me realize that like the institution of marriage was a total joke. Like, I fucked so many wives. It's like I was like, wait a second, I thought this was like sacrosanct. I didn't know that, and then these girls were like total sluts for me. I was like, what's up? Like, this is just not, how is life like this? I was like, and then I would just see situations, and Asia just gave me a new vision, and also a lot of new like experiences that woke me up to the fact that, that life wasn't what I thought it was. And that there was, what it really did was it made me impossible to go back. I often say I'm MGTOW since 1992, because when I started to go through this stuff, I couldn't go back. I just couldn't. I can't fit in. I have friends over, like in the West and everything, and I really like it and I enjoy visiting, but the system that is just set up there is just, to me, it's just painful. I can't. It just doesn't really. It doesn't really interest me, But yeah, I don't know. Maybe if I found the right opportunity, I would be able to live. I consider myself very open-minded and flexible. So I could live in that environment now because I've already integrated fully the red pill into my life. So it wouldn't affect me if I go back. And I could easily find ways to be happy and find ways to live my life totally free from any outside influences. At the same time as reaching goals and kicking ass and not allowing myself to atrophy in any way, and also to be improving myself, right? But I prefer to do it outside the US, outside of Canada, outside of Europe, because in a way I'm kind of an outsider when I'm outside, and that actually helps me also to stay. It helps me because there is nothing like in Asia. There's nothing I can really join. I'm not really welcome in the society, in the culture. I'll have friends. I have friends. I speak a lot of languages and everything, but it's just not the same. You're never really accepted in Asia. You're never become Asian, right? And because of that is, it's a blessing and curse. For me, it's mostly blessing because I'm not accepted. It forces me to say, wait a second, what can I create? What can I do? If you look at in history, Akio Morita, the president of Sony, he was not accepted by Japanese society as a businessman. Sony was very much an outside company. It was outside of the core of Japanese, traditional business. Mitsui, Mitsubishi, all these older companies, very old companies. They kind of ran the inner circle or the old boys network in Japan. And Akio Morita couldn't break in, so what he did was he was the first guy to go hucking products in America, and he just unashamedly went and sold. The transistor, started with that, and just started kicking butt. And finally, he reached massive success, and then he was accepted eventually in Japan. And it's Mr. Honda is the same, Shoichiro Honda from the Honda Corporation, cars and motorcycles and now airplanes. He was the same way. He was not accepted in Japanese inner circle, business circles, old traditional business. So he also went to America. Honda became the best selling in America. And then eventually he did so well that he was accepted. And it was because he wasn't accepted is why he was forced to try something new. He couldn't sell in Japan. He couldn't succeed in Japan. There was the distribution channels just wouldn't let him reach economies of scale he needed to reach. And now we're seeing the same thing with Masayoshi Son, the president of SoftBank. He was not accepted. He's third generation Korean, and he never changed his name to Japanese, and so he wasn't exactly accepted in Japan. He was never like an old boy, but now he's done so well overseas. He's done so well in China. His investments in Alibaba, his investments in the U.S. Now he's become so big, and he also has done very, very well with Vodafone and different investments in Japan. So Japan Telecom and all that, right? But basically the thing is that he was not accepted, so he was forced to go outside. But actually outside was better than inside. He makes more money and does better than the guys that used to not accept him, right? So that's a common story. It's a common story in business. It's a common story in life, is that when you're not accepted, you find ways outside. And there's one last story, was Mittal in India. He owns the Tata Group, and he was told, he went to a 5-star hotel in India way back in the day, and they told him, they said, no Indians. And he's like, why not? And they're like, well, no Indians, and a 5-star hotel back then. And he built his own hotel chain, and now is one of the largest industrialists in the whole world. But it was because he was not accepted that pissed him off and caused him to go pedal to the metal outside the system, find ways to make money where he didn't have to answer to people, and he could do his own way, and there was nobody telling him what to do. And then he ended up being like a total badass. Like, that guy, Tata Group is amazing. So I hope that MGTOWs, by not being accepted, I hope that you, instead of shriveling up and, disappearing on the stage, I hope that you pick it up and you're not accepted in the system. And then you realize the system is totally not good for you. It's like not a system you want to be accepted into. You want to be outside the system, and you want to be finding ways to enjoy your life, to kick ass, to be able to break the rules in every sense of the word, in business, in relationships. I mean, my life is better than 99% of men, I can tell you that. And I don't have the traditional things. I avoid the traditional things. I avoid it. And people look at me like, how can you do that? It's like people often ask me like, why don't you have like a wife? Why don't you have a girlfriend? Like, girls like you. Why don't you, it's like, dude, that I can't really explain it to them, but there's no advantage to me. It's like, why would I do that? Like that just is so fucking small. It's so limiting, right? I'm just tied into this one person that I know is going to, not be everything I want. Like, and freedom just disappears, and I have legal risk, and, all these things we talk about in MGTOW all the time. But it's just like, even my soul, man, my soul couldn't do it. Even if I had like an unlimited credit, line from my parents or something like that, and I didn't have to work or something like that, I didn't have to earn my own money, even then I just would never do it. For me, it would crush me. I see it crushing men all the time. Look at it crushed this guy, and then he went out, and then he broke out of the system by getting hookers and coke. So whatever it takes, guys, whatever it takes for you to break out of the system that is crushing you. I mean, this dude, okay, now whether this story is true or not, it sounds true to me. I've read different accounts here. It sounds like, people commit suicide. Guys commit suicide. Most suicide is male. It's like 70%. And we often don't know why we feel so bad. Like, why is it so bad? Like, if you try to ask a guy, explain, like, why is his life so bad when he's going to kill himself? It's like he can't put it into words. But the truth is, he's being crushed. He's being fucking crushed by a huge system that is thousands of years old and does not give a fuck about him at all. And he maybe can explain it, but once he breaks out of it and realizes he can do what he wants, he can go where he wants, and what other people think of him doesn't matter at all. Once he realizes that, and he really gets it, like this guy screwing a couple hookers, that eating each other out down there having fun. He like realized, like, what was I thinking? Like, what was I thinking back there? Like, I can do whatever I want. I don't know. I hope he's a guy, doesn't continue doing coke and hookers. I don't recommend either one. But I do recommend doing whatever it takes to break out a system for you. Because if you stay in the same place and you do the same things, you're generally going to get the same results. That's a truism. That really is a truism. Sometimes it requires changing, locations, friends, things like that to kind of like give you that perspective. That's why on vacation you feel you come up with all these new ideas and stuff, right? So even if you just want to take a vacation somewhere like this guy did, that can do it. Also, moving somewhere can do it, right? But break out, guys. Break out. If you feel yourself being crushed, if your friend is being crushed, find a way. Find a way that you don't have to be crushed. You don't have to give in. Not give in, but there's a whole nother world full of fun shit for you, guys. That's the whole message of MGTOW. It's not the message is like avoid girls and like they're all bitches. Like there's all this shit for you to do. Life is out there, man, and life is freaking short as fuck, and that's true, man. Somebody commented recently, which was a really great comment, talking about like how they're now not so healthy and like they can't really do what they want to do, but they appreciate all the comments and the videos on the MGTOW channel. But like, if you guys are not like that, I appreciate that honesty. I really appreciate it because, man, life is not easy, man. Fuck, it's not easy. It won't be easy for you. There's going to be tough times, right? Life is not easy, but guys helping guys, things like, like giving each other like encouragement and showing people new ways. This is the shit, man. This is the shit, dude. It's good. Life is good. I encourage you all to try new things. If it's hookers and coke, if that's what it has to be for you, I really, like I say, I'm serious about that one. I really don't recommend it because coke's addicting and hookers are just they're just a bad deal for me. I just don't like their personalities. I don't like what they've become. I don't like anything about the situation. I don't like the diseases. I don't like, just the dead eyes. That's the main thing I don't like about hookers, is their dead eyes, right? I recommend going out. If you're going to get laid, find some chick who loves you, who's into you, and wants it. And you can see it in her eyes, right? And other than that, I have no need to get laid. I can just jerk off. It's totally fine for me. I could give a fuck. So that's always the best option, is that you have the what do you call it? Like the standby is just fucking jerk off. Like, who cares? It doesn't matter, guys. I can tell you this. Like, I when I was in my 20s, I fucked hundreds of girls I talked about before. But you know what? I realized through that is I didn't become another person. Like, my dick didn't get 10 inches longer. You know what I mean? Like, I just am exactly the same person as I was before. I have experiences, you sure, but it doesn't fundamentally change you, right? Like, when you work out, you get fundamentally changed. When you do yoga, you get fundamentally changed. When you change your diet, you get fundamentally changed. And I guess mentally you do, but it's like, it's not a solution. You know what I mean? It's a good thing to do. That's why I recommend for young guys to not run away from women, maybe try some PUA or something. But it's not in the end, it's not a solution. It doesn't make a guy happy in my experience. But can be a good stepping stone along the way to finding happiness and to trying new things, right? And to pushing yourself. And that shit I'm totally into. So whatever it is at the time of your life that you are at, is go push yourself, try new things, break through some barriers, and get out of the fucking system, because the system is not in your benefit, right? And that's what the whole message of MGTOW is get out of the system, man, whatever way you can. All right, guys, well, have a good one, and thanks again for listening, and thank you very much for the freaking awesome comments on the last video. They were so awesome. I'm still like reeling from that. So have a good day, guys. I know I will myself. All right, later.